played Pathfinder last night till like midnight.
You found your path?
No.
And you lost an hour.
Then I lost an hour of sleep.
Yeah, my sister-in-law and the nieces are in town and have been all weekend, which I love. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean
it's fine.
I enjoy having the kids up, but I'm also a person. Look, I like my space.
Yeah.
I enjoy like when things are all in the same place. When there's like I'm not a clutter type person, and so when new people, and it doesn't matter who it is, just anybody is new in my house and they're staying for a while and there's clothes on the floor and there's somebody sleeping on the couch, and because I get up early and I go make my coffee and it's like having to like
it does change everything.
Yeah, and so it's just like, okay, I'm ready for normalcy
again. I love having guests. I also love when guests leave. I love being a guest, but I also love when I go
right.
home.
Like I'm a creature of habit. Like I like my
for sure.
I like my zone.
And no matter how comfortable you are, I don't care if it's your parents' house that you grew up in, going back and staying a weekend, you're ready to get back home into your own routine.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that. It's like even when Christmas and like the holidays roll around and I have to decorate for whatever seasonal bullshit decor my husband wants to like thrash our house with. I'm just like, no.
I'm threatening to buy LED lights so I can just hang them up about middle of October and leave them up until January 1st. Change the colors.
That's exactly what you do. Like, Valentine's Day roll around, pink.
Happy Seasons works for all of them.
The season tree.
A few years ago, approaching Thanksgiving, we were in here talking. Craig was like, "Yeah, I just bought a bunch of old comics. I got stacked up in the living room. I got to get rid of those before we got to decorate for Thanksgiving." And I was like, "Nah, just decorate them."
Yeah,
just put a turkey on top of them.
Yeah.
I think I finally got those situated, although I have 15 short boxes stacked up in my living room right now.
Wow.
I love your wife. Roger doesn't let me stack short boxes in the living room.
And mine are right inside the doorway. So, like, you walk in, she's just started stacking shit on it like it's a
I guess a table. Nice.
There's like all kinds of shit stacked on top.
Great cohesion.
That's amazing. Well, you know what else is amazing?
What?
Tell me what else is amazing. We're all comic books. Well, and the fact that we're all together once again on a Sunday morning to talk about those comic books. And guess how many episodes that we will have done. Once
I know it's over 100 and less than 120.
Facts. You want to take a gander?
115.
115.
Jesus, how do you remember that shit?
Files.
Spreadsheets.
We used to get a outline every week that had the number on there, but
but then we got good at what we do, so I don't send that. Like
it's not required anymore. But that's how I used to keep track. That's all I mean by that.
And I still have the outline. Like I still have it like up.
I have an outline, but it doesn't have the number on it. And if it did, I would never update it. So.
Well, this is episode 115 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. Once again, as always, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie,
Matt Trogdon,
and I'm Craig Lance.
And we want to thank you for joining us once again for another week. We love doing this, and maybe this is your first time, and if it is, we want to welcome you. You're asking, okay, you've got me here. What is this? What am I doing? Why should I keep listening? Well, we're a comic-based podcast. We're out of Arkansas. We record live from right in the middle of a little local comic shop called Kapow Comics over on Keel Avenue in Sherwood. And we get together. We're three friends who love to talk about the funny books, whether they're funny or not. And we get together on Sunday mornings. We have a little bit of coffee, or unless you're Craig and you drink Diet Mountain Dew, which, by the way, we're running low on. He was having a crisis this morning.
Dykes, get us some...
The man's sweating.
To be fair, the only Diet Mountain Dews I drink are Sunday morning and Wednesday at the comic book store. Like, serious.
I don't know. Do you believe him? I don't know if I believe him.
I think it's really funny that he stopped to make that point. To be clear, I have down Mountain Dews twice a week.
Well, I used to be
Hold on. Say that again so I can write that down.
I used to be an addict.
Uh-huh.
Hi, I'm Craig. I'm a Mountain Dew addict. No, I used to drink it like, fish drink water, but I had some kidney stones, and I changed to drinking mostly water to get away from the... So I drink very few diet drinks.
I respect that, dude. I quit drinking soft drinks almost a year ago now. I think I've had like 2. Every once in a while I'll go to the movies and have one. But mostly I drink water, coffee, and large amounts of alcohol. That's how I live. I'm chemically balanced. I have my coffee in the mornings to get me going, and I have my booze at night to put me down, and somewhere in between, I drink water.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
It's chemical balance.
Yeah.
It's good. So that's all why you should stick around, because you get that amazing thing.
Yeah, you do not take your life advice from us. Comic advice, yes. Life advice, no.
And while we're giving shout outs and we're talking about Kapow Comics, I want to say thank you to Matt Dykes for two reasons. Number one, he does let us store stuff here and record in the middle of the store. And also, I needed to say his name because Craig said, yeah, Dykes, get it together. And I want people to realize that we're talking about Matt Dykes, who is a human being.
Yes.
And we're not using sexual slurs, because we're not like that. We like to discuss.
If you don't know that by now.
Well, but if it's their first time.
Could be a new listener.
Yeah. So, and they're just like, oh, no. And see, we're not those people. We
are not
welcome
those
everybody.
people. We are generally, quote unquote, woke people.
We try to be. I mean,
we slip every now and then, as everybody
Not me.
does. But
that's just like
I do. We have to bleep some shit out that I do and edit. But
I'm so woke. I married a dude for the cause, so that's where I'm at. Well, what we like to start off our show with, for those of you who have been sticking around for a little bit, we love to kind of give everybody and each other a taste of what we're reading, just because we have different things that we love to read. So I'm always curious about what my boys over here have been reading this week. And I have a feeling this week there's going to be a little bit of crossover. Because I don't know about you guys, but this week was a insanely strong week for like new number ones. Mm-hmm. You have those weeks where things kind of tick by and you're like, there was one or two things that really hit, or there was a couple of new series that started, but nothing really landed. This week, like every number one I read was just strong.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I guess I'll read off mine first. That way I don't feel bad when if y'all said it
I kind of
first.
chose some that on purpose that I knew that I didn't think you were going to choose.
Let's test this theory. Yeah. Excited. So the first thing I read this week that I wanted to give a little shout out for is Cimmerian, Queen of the Black Coast, which I know Matt's gonna hit on at some point. But this is by Jean-David Morvan, Pierre Allery, and Sedeus. It's from a comics publisher that I'm not familiar with, or at least haven't been familiar with at all. Surprisingly good. This was a sleeper. The cover kind of deceives you from what might be inside. I was really scared, because I'm a huge Conan fan. I was scared I was going to pick up something that was going to be like the equivalent of Boundless, and it was not that at all. I was pleasantly surprised. So go check that out. Another number one, one of my favorite things I read this week was Strange Academy. This is a new Marvel book by Scotty Young, Humberto Ramos, and Edgar Delgado. This book, I love Young Avengers. I love those kind of teenage-based books that really pull in different characters or new characters, and this fills that whole, I love Champions and stuff like that.
When I read it, I thought this is a Caleb book.
Yeah, 100%. And I love Scotty. I love Scotty. That dude's a beast. And so this was 100% steeped in his style. And, look, Humberto Ramos is the dude. He's just insanely talented. And then the third thing, which was arguably the best thing I read this week, just filled my heart with happiness. It's a book out of Boom. It's called King of Nowhere, number one. And this is by W. Maxwell Prince, and Tyler and Hillary Jenkins did the art on it. Y'all know me. I love things that are off the wall. I love things that are just different and weird and funky. And I have a special soft place in my heart for watercolors. So, and this book has all that. This book, it doesn't follow anything that you would expect it to.
If you could make an acid trip a comic book, that's what King of Nowhere was.
And I think that's
that's what it intended
is,
to be. But yeah, it was fucking amazing.
It really was. Yeah. What did you read this week, Craig?
I read Daredevil number 15 by Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto, and Matty Iacona. I'm sorry, it's Daredevil 19. I should put on my glasses before I start reading. This book was really fantastic. We finally end up with Daredevil semi back in his Daredevil costume at the end of it. With
Daredevil's got a semi?
Yes. And he's semi back in his Daredevil costume at the end with a fantastic splash page.
Nice.
But the art in this book's just absolutely fucking killing it. Zdarsky's killing it with the story. I know you had some issues with it way back, Caleb, but this is...
You don't have to stop to point out Caleb's faults in the middle of your short
No, I'm just pointing out that the things that he fell off of it for have actually ended up being strong points.
He's trying to entice me back onto the title.
Well, so to me, this is the third best Cape and Tights book that's out right now.
Nice.
Right behind X-Men and Immortal Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
This is right up there with them. It's that fucking good.
This issue was really, really well done. It's hella fun.
Then I read Mirka Andolfo's Mercy. by Image Comics. It's #1. Mirka is a fantastic artist. This was a really good book. I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on in it, so that's why I'm not. I mean, I know what happened in this book, but I don't know what the story is yet. So that's one reason I'm not talking about it as my book of the week. But it's so far a very intriguing story, and it's I mean, she just kills the art and everything she does.
So I'm curious on that, if I can jump in for just a second. So you say, like, I get what you're saying about not knowing what's going on in the broad scope of the book, but so I agree with you. I love her art. I think her art is very strong. It's gorgeous, gorgeous art. The last few things that she has written have not landed for me because I don't think she's really found her place and her space as a writer. As far as getting the book together, does this feel like a change for that?
It does.
Okay.
Which I thought that I can't remember the name of the first book we read by her, but it was the one. It had been out in Italy for a while, and they brought it over here.
It was the anthropomorphic.
It started off really good, and it petered out as it went. Unsacred didn't really land with me. I love the art. I looked through every book because of the art was so good.
Yeah.
But this one, the story captured me right away. The art's good. I mean, it's Mirka Andolfo, so and they printed 60,000 copies of this issue #1 and sold out.
Nice. I mean, on the art alone, that does not surprise me.
Yeah, so she's definitely finding her niche. The last book I read, well, it wasn't the last book, but the last one of my short stack is Outer Darkness Chew by John Layman, Afu Chan, and Rob Guillory. And what this book was to me was, I've never been a heroin addict, but if you've been off of heroin for a while and somebody gives you a hit, this is what it would feel like, because it made me realize how much I miss Chew. You get that little hint of Chew in there. It was so fucking good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Chew. I was a mark for it, and you still have all those little things going on in the background. It was fantastic. You even get to see Polio in it.
Yeah,
I know. I know how much you love that series.
It was so good.
That series was excellent.
Yeah,
that's an amazing series.
Yeah, and basically, you wonder how it's a crossover. Well, they're needing some help with they being the crew of Outer Darkness. What I forget the name of the Chiron, is that the ship they're on? They need they're trying to negotiate with a group of aliens that only speaks through food.
Yeah.
So they go back in time and suck Tony Chu and bring him into their time. Not and bring him into their time 500 years in the future.
Blowjob time travelers. That's
transport. More accurate.
Yeah.
Transport.
Yeah. Suck him out of his time.
No, I got
put
you.
him into
I was
theirs.
tracking. But now I want a story about blowjob time travelers.
Time change fucked me up this weekend, so I really enjoyed it. And again, it's just like, give me more Chew.
I love how much you guys love Layman. Like, I love how much you guys love that man. Because
I love Layman and Guillory both.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, either whether they're working together or separately.
Yeah,
I just love their work. So
I say that because it makes me jealous, because it didn't bite me the way it bit y'all, and I wish it had.
Oh yeah.
Just because I love how giddy and just filled with joy you guys get over any book that couple does.
Well, and I know we were talking yesterday through text about Farmhand kind of wrapping up. It's not. It's reaching its midway point with the next issue.
Yep.
So it still has another 16 issues.
Okay.
So
and there's a new. Speaking of which, there's potentially a new Chew series coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it because I'm excited for anything Chew related. I wish Guillory was able to draw it, but I'll buy it anyways because it's Layman and it's Chew. So
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it looks really good. They're making an AMC. Well, supposedly they're making an AMC show at Farmhand, which that sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I can't wait for that. My turn.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
So I also read from Ablaze Comics, The Cimmerian, Queen of the Black Coast, #1. First of all...
I knew you did.
So the title of this threw me whenever it was announced, because the Queen of the Black Coast is not a Cimmerian. Then once I got the book and read the opening page, I realized what these catty sons of bitches at Ablaze did. They titled it The Cimmerian because of legal troubles and whatnot over titling it Conan the Barbarian. And just to throw an extra shot over the bow, did you read this inside page, Caleb, and notice this cattiness in it?
I guess I missed it. What's up?
Last sentence in the opening page that it essentially is announcing what this comic is about. The last sentence is, first published in the May 1934 Weird Tales, this Conan classic is a marvelous entry point.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, and it made I can, a little background on this story. Just I know we all know because we're kind of Conan marks, but this was actually put into previews a while back, and they had to pull it.
Yep.
Because of
the title.
Yeah, because I guess Marvel threatened them with lawsuits or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's interesting. So I was listening to some other friends talk about this book as well, and they pointed out that it still says Conan inside.
Mm-hmm.
So they still use his name.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm curious from a legal perspective what the nuance there is, because I don't know.
Well, they probably, it's such an old property that there's probably multiple rights out there.
Yeah.
But owning the title Conan belongs to Marvel.
Well, I know the work is in public. It's in the public realm.
domain.
Public
Yeah.
domain, so Marvel can't stop them, but they own the IP for the name of the book.
Well, what's interesting about that is apparently the Howard family owns Conan Properties International.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to know how those things kind of intersect when you've got a public domain, but Conan Properties International.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know.
People, some lawyers smarter than us got together and figured out how they could publish this book.
Dude, publishing law is weird, and that's I'm actually really excited to get into more of publishing law.
That would suck.
When I go in there. Craig's trying to spew Mountain Dews everywhere.
I thought he was sounding the bell, like time for Caleb.
Time to move on.
Also, I read from Marvel Comics Spider-Man Noir #1 by Margaret Stoll and Juan Ferreira. Anybody else read this?
I did.
Didn't.
You should read this.
Yeah.
I picked this up because of Juan Ferreira, and he's been posting some art from it online, and it looks freaking crazy good.
It's really good.
Crazy good. So I had no intention of picking this book up, but I did last minute, and I really dug this. This was really fun, and the art is stupid good. Juan
Could you
Ferreira
read
is
it without thinking of Nick Cage doing
Yes.
the voice?
Yes.
That was my problem reading it, as I read it in Nick Cage.
Yeah. I don't think about Nick Cage. That's a muscle. That's a muscle I have developed very well.
He doesn't just live in your brain.
No, he doesn't. I have no hate for Nick Cage, just to be clear. That's a joke. So, thirdly, I read from Dark Horse Comics, The Butcher of Paris #4 by Stephanie Phillips, Steen Kotz, Jason Wordy, and Troy Pateri. I love this series, man.
Yeah.
This is the best thing I've read out of Dark Horse in a long time.
It's really fucking good.
I love it, and just the fact that it's a nonfiction story makes me love it all the more. It is fascinating. This is a fascinating read, and I know what's going to happen is I'm going to go find a prose version of this story so I can read it into even more detail.
That would be. I want to borrow that after you're done with it.
Yeah,
Because it's good.
yeah.
It's real good, and it was something I didn't see coming. And the only way I knew about it is you guys, which is kind of why we do this. It's kind of why we share these little. Here's what we're reading, and here's what's good coming around.
Yep.
Because it makes gives us something else to look at.
Yep.
That we might not be in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It surprised me how good this book is.
Mm-hmm. And if you are reading something that you think would surprise us, or you might think could be within our wheelhouse, maybe we've missed it, you don't know that we're talking about it, you know where you can come share that with us? I bet Craig knows. Craig knows where he can come share that with us.
Yeah, on Southern Fried Geekery's Facebook page,
Uh-huh.
on our @SFG podcast,
Uh-huh.
on Instagram and Twitters, and you can email
You can at
at
Southern.
southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com.
Man, you're getting great at that.
Yeah,
I love it.
I mean, after 115 issues, I should start learning the name of our social media sites.
Don Pardo over here. Look it up, kids.
Deep cuts. Jump on our Facebook group, hang out with us. We're all the time talking on there. The more people that post on there, the better, the more widespread of a net we cast. We invite anybody and everybody. We would love to know what you're reading, so come hang out with us on there. You guys remember way back like 10 minutes ago where I said how some of the most this was an incredibly strong week for first issues.
Yeah.
That it was just redonkulous.
Yeah.
So one of those first issues was something that we kind of before we even really had read it, I think, got together and decided we want to talk about it. Just number one, because we love the creative team and we kind of had a feeling we were going to all dig it. And I think we probably all did. But we decided to get together and roundtable it. So all three of us read it, and we're going to jump right into it. And I want to reiterate on this. We are going to be talking about some details of these comics, all the comics we talk about. And inherently by doing that, we're going to spoil some things. So if you haven't read any of the books that we are going to discuss, you can hit the pause button, go check the show notes, see where the next book gets jumped up at, and jump there and then come back and listen to it later. We don't want to ruin the reading experience for anybody. That's not why we do that. It's not why we like to talk about comics. We're not here to try to take anything away from you discovering something amazing. We just love to talk about it. So this is your spoiler warning. We are going to dig into these just, slightly. We're going to leave some things to mystery because it's kind of like side boob. You don't want to see the whole thing. Sometimes it's nice to just get a little glimpse. And that's what we do, but, we don't want to spoil it. So don't do that. Hit the pause button. So, all right, this week we got together and decided to read the newest, the latest awesome thing, in my opinion, from Ahoy Comics, from our dear friends over there. And that's Billionaire Island. This is the new book by Mark Russell, Steve Pugh, his buddy from Flintstones, jumping back on here. Chris Chuckery did the colors, and Rob Steen did the letters on it. Again, I've said it a couple of times now. I thought it was a great book. I'm curious what you guys thought.
Yeah, I like it.
I loved it. It was really good.
Really hit the mark for you?
Yeah.
Once
but
again,
I'm totally a mark for Mark Russell.
Mark for Mark. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I thought it was so. Yeah, I loved it. Let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to jump into the end part, but I remember I'd have to tell you what it's about first, just in case anybody at home doesn't know. So one of the things right now, kind of in the public zeitgeist, is wealth disparity, right? Like it's everywhere. Whether you agree with it or not, you see it, you talk about it. It's one of those things that we all have to deal with and look at. And that's really what Mark Russell is digging into here. So in this world, it's a little bit in our future, so to speak, or, we like to think it could be at least our future, or don't like to think, whatever may have you. It takes place in 2044. And it's off the kind of coast of Florida. And this guy, he's recording an infomercial, and he's just like, hey, like I've got this newest awesome thing, but it's exclusively for billionaires. Like no simple millionaire riffraff is coming in. No average Joe or Jane.
Let us see your bank account.
Yeah, are going to come in there.
Watching this infomercial.
Yeah, he's like, come check out this island. It's just for you. It's a tax haven. It's whatever you want because look, these plebeians, they're getting on our nerves, right? And they're going to destroy themselves. We can't have that. Like they're just really getting in our way. So come to Billionaire Island. Come hang out with me. And who is this guy that's doing this? Well, he's kind of a stand-in for Mark Zuckerberg. He's a tech guy who's made his billions off of the internet and off of social media and everything else. And he got tired of the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warrens of the world. And he decided just to skirt all that. And, global warming's kicked in and places are flooding. Like it's bad. And it's made people even angrier. And so what did he do? He decided to just make his own thing. He's a technological billionaire with an unlimited amount of money. So why wouldn't he make what is the equivalent of a Shield helicarrier to skirt them and get them around? And that's what they've done. But all is not necessarily right with the world in this. There are people who, are not on board with this. As you might imagine, 99% of the people
99.9
are not on board with this. One of the things that has kind of happened here is all of these people have and they are the puppet masters of the world, right? These are the big pharma, these are big business have gotten together to really just wrest control of their own lives.
Yeah, these are the people that are controlling the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of one of the things that has happened, like I said, not only are people suffering from global warming, but there's also kind of a global pandemic going on right now, which currently in our real world with COVID-19, that's it's a little bit of a scary how timely this is. This pharma guy tapped in and put his foot on the scale a little bit, and he decided that he was going to basically create a disease and then create the immunovirus for it, or the immunovaccine for it. Except the vaccine had some side effects. It went awry, so to speak, and it mutated in a way that no one really expected it to, and it killed a vast number of people who had, I guess, the protein markers or the cell sequences that it could latch onto. and it unduly caused death. Now, look, they weren't doing it in the nice, astute white neighborhoods. They were sending it in like rice to Angola. They were sending it in emergency foods to places in the world that were suffering from drought.
Yeah, they were beta testing it.
Right.
In impoverished countries.
Which is a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
And it had this negative effect. Well, it hurt. There's this character in the story that it really kind of focuses around. And this guy's a badass. Like, this guy is not somebody who's just off the street. This guy's special forces. He was, he's kind of, what was the Blackwater guys that worked over in Iraq and places for a while. He's like public sector military SWAT, Navy SEAL-esque type of figure. And he's lucky because
he's a humanitarian.
Well, he is now. Maybe
He was.
Yeah. Well, he was guarding things. He's not necessarily somebody who really paid attention to all these things, but he is lucky in the fact that he was in a place with his wife and kid, and that they ate some of this food that they were passing out to humanitarians, and he didn't have those cell surface markers. He didn't have whatever it was that this genetically altered thing latched onto. Unfortunately, his wife and kid did.
Yeah.
So very Frank Castle-esque type of motivation here. And his wife and kid passed away, and he's a little pissed because nothing happened. No one went to jail. They brushed it off. It didn't matter. This corporation ran by these just really affluent, apathetic people are allowed to get away with murder and murder of his family, and it really hit home for him. So now that Billionaire Island is on and kicking, and these people are really moving out and they're consolidating, and the puppet masters of the world are really just kind of done. They're washing their hands of their sins. He's not going to let that happen. So he has tracked one of these guys down and has tied him up to the bed and is basically torture murdering him, whoever you want to go first, into giving him the information. And lo and behold, he does. He gives him that information. And so he's on a path for vengeance, man. Meanwhile, all of this is happening. Billionaire Island's on and popping. It's the world's greatest cruise ship. And people are really curious about what's happening in this world. And so, the IRS is trying to find a foothold in, and that's not working because everybody who works for the IRS is broke, and they have almost a genetic scanner that lets you know if you're poor or not when you walk through the door. Some reporters show up, and they're trying to get the full story, and they're interviewing the guy from the infomercial from the beginning of the show. And, she's a good journalist. She's trying to get to the bottom of it. But she's also trying to be polite because, again, Billionaire, like, he can walk out of the room, he can end the interview anytime he wants to. So he's just like, okay, look, I'm busy, but I don't mind you. Follow me. We'll go. I'm going to take you to this island place. Everything's going to be fine, but I've got to go handle my business there. And she does. And she gets on the island. And as they're talking, he gets like a text message or a phone call or something. He's like, hey, I got to take this thing. Could you mind waiting in that room over there? And she opens the door and goes in, and it locks and clicks behind her. Bait and switch. But in this room, there are other characters. These 4 or 5 other people. One of which is another reporter. The other one is a guy who worked for him for years. The other is this really one of them's a hipster that's just over money, and the other one's kind of this bloodthirsty company, a woman type who just thinks that it is what it is. It's like this is all just a test, and she's willing to just wade through glass and muck to end up on top because that's surely what's going to happen. And they're all been locked in this room for about 4 years now, and there's a giant hamster wheel
they call it the hamster room.
Yeah, fitness is important. If you're going to keep people prisoners, you might as well give them like a treadmill, so to speak. And there's a big hamster water bottle that they eat off of, and every once in a while, just to keep them placated, money rains down like manna from heaven, just to ensure that these guys look. I mean, yes, they're getting bitchy, and yes, they've technically been kidnapped, and yes, they're away from their families and prisoners and have no free will.
But you're getting paid for it.
But they're getting the line in their pockets. Wonderful. And when they get out, they're going to be just rich beyond all means, right? Like that's what's, and for the woman, she's just like, this is you all are my competition, and I'm going to get to be the CFO, not the CEO, but I'll definitely be the CFO. I'm going to climb the corporate ladder, and it'll be great. This isn't going to work out the way they wanted to. And like I said, they've been in there for years.
Yeah.
And at the end of the story, you kind of hear the door open a little bit, and look, the world just kind of blossoms out from there. And Mark Russell and Steve Pugh are going to really kind of take you on this sarcastic, sardonic adventure to deal with the wealth inequality. And this is something that Mark Russell arguably does better than anybody in comics, I think, is satire.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, one of the things, like, you know, I almost used a Fox News phrase. I was going to say fair and balanced, but that's terrible. We do like to keep things 100. This is not the strongest first issue from Mark Russell that I've ever read. For me personally, I think that, to me, one of the things that I love about Mark Russell's Flintstones, and one of the things I loved about, you know, books like Second Coming, was that he does play into satire a little bit, and he doesn't put it so on the nose that he's not. I don't need somebody shoving my face in the shit to know that it's shit, and he's really good at that.
Right.
He's really good at backing you up from a little bit and laying it out and keeping it comical. To me, it's kind of gotten a little bit close to the line of you just saying, "Hey, here's what it is."
I think the title alone leads you down that path, anyways.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you know that this is going to be an anti-wealth.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
not anti-wealth, but an anti-wealth disparity.
Yeah. Oh, and in the same way that he did with Second Coming. I mean, like, he's not trying to hide the football on you.
Right.
This book is what it is. But even just in, you know, the money raining down from the sky, the drones that, like,
it was funny.
Oh no, it is. It's hilarious. What I'm saying is, like, to me, when you compare it to something like his Flintstones work, or even what he did in Second Coming, which was not the Second Coming was not a book that poked fun at Christianity.
It was not.
It's not a book that belittled anybody's faith or religion. It actually uplifted a lot of the teaching. I don't think it belittled it.
A little bit.
I never felt like it belittled. I felt like it pointed out some of the hypocrisy.
Well, for sure.
In there, and said, hey, this is like the national, the big thing that you're not seeing.
So, Second Coming reminded me 100% of what Monty Python used to do, and that's make fun of the people following religion, not the religion itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where, like I said, I didn't get lost. I still think this is an excellent first issue. I think it's really fun.
There's definitely a Mark Russell scale we talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is not the strongest, but I still think it's amazing. I love seeing him and Steve Pugh back together. Again, they did Flintstones together, and I like, they're an incredible team. And so, yeah, I just think that I think it's a weird time for this. It's either it's a weird time for this book to come out, and it's the perfect time for this book to come out, especially because, like, you know, you're looking in the three major political figures in the world right now, or at least in our world, is, you know, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, or you know, Joe Biden's in there somewhere, and having these things just hammer home constantly in the daily world, and then coming and seeing them and seeing, like, you know, just the joke that it is laid out before us it's almost like ripping a band, like you're seeing the wound a little bit, and
it maybe is a little too timely.
Yeah.
You know, whether that was incidental or it's just that's the state of the world right now.
No, I mean, I think it's purposefully done.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. There are some parts on it that are right on the nose when he's talking to he being the mercenary guy is talking to, which I don't ever think we got his name in the book.
I don't think we saw it, no.
Yeah. So he's talking to the first billionaire where he's trying to get the information on how to get to Billionaire Island. The guy says, I'm sorry, I never intended for your family to eat that. And he's like, oh, well, it's okay because it's, you know, not brown people. You know, it was a little, okay, well, it's on the nose. It's right.
Right.
It's not wrong, but it is on the nose.
Yeah.
And a little bit not satirical at that point.
And that's where to me it was, it did not get preachy, but it walked right up to being preachy. One of the things I love about Mark Russell is his just incredible wit and massive amounts of sarcasm. One of my favorite parts in Second Coming, you know, they flash back to I think it was Moses, or it might have been Abraham, talking about the birth of religion, and God's like, no, here, I need you to cut part of your dick off. Okay, sure. Like, there weren't, I didn't get any of those moments out of this book. And there were a few that came close.
So I did.
Did you? Okay.
And I tell you, and this was my favorite part of the book, is when we're learning about all the people that are in the hamster cage, how all these people are accepting or reacting to being stuck in the hamster cage, but getting, quote, good food and money thrown at them occasionally.
Right.
Yeah.
these are the kinds of people I've seen throughout my career. That it's just funny, and it really struck home with me because so many of these characters I have seen in my life. You watch your employer take advantage of you. When you're in my line of work, which is sales, which you're very vulnerable to, and what happens inevitably is you reach a level of success and your compensation is cut.
Right.
And I've never had a tolerance for that, but it's amazing to me how many people do. They're like, well, yeah, they cut my pay 30%. They want me to work just as hard, if not harder. Whatever you
work harder,
whatever
the same amount.
Whatever you say, boss. And it's just amazing how prevalent that is.
Well, at that point, you're no longer the good salesman. You're now the competition for that guy's job. So if he can deter you from continuing to do well or break you a little bit, then you're no longer a threat to his position or to her position, to any.
Well, that's a thing that's prevalent in any industry, and as Matt says, specifically sales. But I've been in the same situation where you get to a point where you're making more money than they want you to make, and they find a way to cut your pay. And you're supposed to be happy that they're giving you good food and money, as the book shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found, that the moment in the hamster cage where you're learning about all characters, I read that section 3 or 4 times because it struck so true to me. And it was funny. It's just funny to see this, brought to life this way, because it's, the best comedy is true comedy.
Right.
And that's what I got out of that section right there.
I now that I'm going back kind of looking through it, I think I may have missed, there is one moment, and it's kind of in that same segue. It's when they're talking about the woman who is just completely the corporate shill. And she's talking about all the things that she did that they made her do to climb the corporate ladder. And she's basically doing like the American Gladiator thing and hitting people with like the foam sticks. That was funny. And that was the kind of Mark Russell, like those little moments that I love from him.
I think it's in there. I think that it's throughout the book, but I see it both ways because I can see what you're saying too. But I think his satire is still on point in this book.
Oh, it's definitely there. And like you said something earlier, Craig. Like there's a scale, a Mark Russell scale throughout the books. Mark Russell's Red Sonja wasn't excellent. It wasn't.
I disagree.
Edit button.
No, and that's fine. It wasn't excellent in the way that
it's not a satirical.
Yeah,
it's more of a serious book. It has its funny moments.
To me, that's Mark Russell writing just everyday normal comics.
No, okay, so stop. Full stop.
Okay.
So that book, I would really like to know where he got inspired to write the Red Sonja. We were on a tangent here. To write the Red Sonja series, because that is a brilliant war strategy book.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's being a mark for a good war story. That is a unique comic I've never read one like that before. Never read a story like that before.
Certainly not in a Red Sonja.
Let alone Red Sonja. And it was I love that book because the ways he's exposing and different kinds of war strategy and how you can use a small force to overcome a much larger one. I love that stuff. And that illustrated that in ways I've never seen before.
It's a different Mark Russell than you're used to.
Yeah, and
it's funny, but not in a satirical way necessarily. It's just funny.
Yeah, it's Mark. Well, see, and you said you've never read that before. Like, I feel like I had kind of read that in Conan comics.
No, not done like this. No, not done like this.
Did you stay on it, or did you?
Yeah, no, I finished it. Yeah.
I thought it's still going on.
Really?
Yeah, the last issue just came out.
When did you think you finished it?
12?
Incorrect.
What issue are they on now?
14.
Really? Huh.
Taken off of you finished the story,
right?
But now it's following up to, hey, we're about to starve to death.
Oh, okay.
Because we burned all of our fields to survive.
Yeah.
So now it's moved on to how she's going to continue this kingdom surviving.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still good. But it is, I will give you 100%, it's a different Mark Russell story.
Yeah, very different.
If you were going into it looking for
Flintstones
social commentary,
right?
It's not it is, but not to the level as other books are.
It's subtle.
Yeah.
It's and that's where I'm saying, like, in the world of, I don't necessarily want Mark Russell to be subtle, and I don't necessarily need him to also, like, to me, that's where he walks that fine line, which is what makes him the best satirical writer. is in Flintstones, the message was there and it wasn't hard to interpret, but it was still really well done and it made a lot of sense. In Second Coming, again, really well done, made a lot of sense, not hard to see. In Flintstones, a little bit more subtle, a little bit more, and it's not what you expected. Like when I found out he was writing Red Sonja, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be like he's going to make some real statements about misogyny. This is going to be a book about women's rights, about the strength of women in leadership. Maybe this is going to be a little bit of a reflection about what happened to Hillary Clinton, because that's just kind of the world that Mark Russell lives in. And we got arguably none of that. I mean, a little bit, but not heavy-handed.
That's okay because I think what he's doing is showing he can do more than satire,
right,
and still be funny. The one that I would put at the lower end of the Mark Russell scale for me was Wonder Twins.
Yeah,
it started off great and petered out, and to the point that I kind of quit reading the last 3 or 4 issues.
Okay,
that doesn't mean it's not good, and that other people may not like it. It just, for me, I expect more from Mark Russell than what that book gave. But Red Sonja gave me, because it really showcases who he is as a writer beyond just satire. So I liked it. I liked it for that alone, and liking it for that alone.
Well, what I'm interested in Billionaire Island, more than anything, back to the book price you're talking about,
is bring this back home.
I see what you did there.
I want to see how he's going to write, Mr. Murderman.
Yeah. Murderman.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how he writes this character.
The Punisher, not Punisher. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really great.
Has he ever written hyper-violent stuff?
Red Sonja.
That first issue of Red Sonja was pretty metal. I mean, she cuts dudes' heads off and then throws at another guy.
Yeah, that
was pretty metal. But there hadn't been a whole lot of that kind of stuff in the series since.
Subtle violence.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun to see what he does. At the end of the day, I'll look at this book forever because I think Steve Pugh is great. Like his cartooning style is real. The expressions that he's able to pull out of his characters' faces are priceless to me.
They're good, real good,
incredible. And even his action, like his moment-to-moment action sequences, they're so fluid. For a book like this that kind of jumps around as much as this book does, it's still so freaking cohesive that. He's just an incredibly strong storyteller, and there's likenesses in here that are just close enough. Like you look at these characters in the book, and you're like, oh, I know that person. And part of that comes through the description that Russell gives of kind of who these people are. But I think so much of that is translated through that. Like you see the kind of guy with the beard and like he's too good for money, but he'll totally slip $100 in his pocket. Like that person, and it's almost universally recognizable.
I'm pretty sure that the corporate ladder climbing woman is Kellyanne Conway.
You think it is? Well, like I said, I know that the one guy's Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, that's just like
even drawn.
His 5 and 6 ad are blatant in there. You look at the guy. They do a flashback of Mr. Murderman, if that's what we're going to call him, when he was working as kind of this. Not a UN figure, but he was private military, and he was sent places to guard. He was working for, I guess, Agro is what this company was called, and that they were the ones doing the genetic testing, and he was working for them, and he was guarding their food. And that's why his wife and kid was with him over there because she was
a humanitarian stuff.
Yeah, while he worked for corporate military.
Right.
But you see him, and you see the way he's dressed, and like at least I see 7 people like that a day in Arkansas. You know who that person is, and it's so relatable in a very simplistic way, and a book like this needs that, and I think Steve Pugh is he's gold.
Yeah.
His
art was really good in the Flintstones, and nothing has changed to this book. It's really good. What he like we've talked about already, his facial expressions, the action, it's just fantastic. And I have no complaints about this book.
I'm sticking around on it. I'm going to give it a few more issues, see what it does. It's Ahoy, so it'll probably only be a 4 or 5 issue series anyway. Ahoy usually does that. So I'm curious to see how they're going to go with it. And I'm curious to see if they can...
I'm going to say that Murderman kills all the billionaires on the island.
But it's got to be funny, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like this, no. I mean, follow me here. Like that's what I'm saying. Like this book is dangerously close to not really being clever. It's just kind of being honestly a Bernie Sanders comment thread on Facebook. Like, it's just fuck everybody who's rich, and they're all, you know, and it borderlines being very close on that. Now, I trust Mark Russell to be able to walk that line. I trust Mark Russell to be able to do something really interesting and really cool with it.
He will.
And I think that's what's sticking me on this book more than anything. Because I want to see how he does that. And hopefully he will.
He will.
Any final thoughts on it?
Buy the book. Read it.
Yeah, I'm staying on it. And I think the cover of this book makes me laugh. That illustration on the cover, I just think is hilarious.
Oh, where he's stepping on the globe?
Well, it's just that you've obviously got an old white guy in a suit, and he's in this like ballerina-esque stance as money showers down. It's just ridiculous looking.
While he's crushing the world.
And he's stepping on the world, and the world is squirting out, obviously, resources. It just cracks me up, man. I just thought it was a hilarious image.
He's stepping on Africa, too. I think that's that's a blatantly political statement in and of itself. And I think that, you know, I likes it. So I'm going to see where it goes. Well, I want to see where other things go, because I know you guys have read some books that that's my weird week segue of the week. I want to see what you guys have read this week that I haven't, because I have faith that you have. So who wants to go first? Somebody tell me about a book.
I'll go first.
You're going to go, oh, you're going old school.
I am going old school.
I read this.
Yeah. Did you read this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you know what happens in Tomb of Dracula number 10
Mm-hmm.
from way back in 1972.
I do.
Caleb, do you know what's important about Tomb of Dracula?
I do, but why don't we pretend like I don't? You tell
Okay.
me.
It's the first appearance of Blade.
Yep.
I went back and read this. I bought the Facsimile edition because I could get it for $3.99.
Uh-huh.
And I read it, and I love these Facsimile editions, I want to say.
Yeah.
I love being able to see the old ads in them.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are... I want to just write letters to some of these people that are buying and selling comics that are in there and see if they're still in business buying and selling comics.
Yeah.
This was originally published in 1972. It was written by Marv Wolfman, who is just... I mean, it's Marv Wolfman. Mm-hmm. What can you say about him? Gene Colan did the pencils. Jack Abel inked it. Petra Goldberg did the colors. And the beautiful cover is done by Gil Kane. So... First of all, let me say this. This book is very obviously a product of its time. As much as I love Marv Wolfman, you can tell that he is a white man, that his entire experience dealing with black people comes from being black criminals in... No, let me finish. Black criminals in a Clint Eastwood cop show, or the heroes in a black exploitation movie.
Yes,
those are his experiences with them, because the way Blade is written. But it's still good. He just says things like brother a lot, and it's good. So this book starts off, and you got a couple that's on a dock, and they're headed to go to her parents' house to introduce her fiance to her parents, and they get attacked by 3 vampires that tell them the only way they're going to see her parents is undead. Which, of course, then Blade shows up and kills the 3 vampires. And one of them tries to get away, and he chases them down. I mean, they got a lot of action and some good sequences, and the art's very, very 70s style, but it's really good. And then it transfers over to this boat, this party ship. Mm-hmm. And you've got this guy running it. You've got actresses and actors. And, I mean, it's a bunch of rich people having a party on a yacht. And he introduces his guest for the night, and it's Count Dracula. And people start asking Dracula all these, are you really a vampire? Does that mean you kill people? And can you do all this and that? He's like, enough. It's just a disease. It's like blood poisoning. I don't have to kill people. I need transfusions to live. It's just, leave me alone. And it indicates that this ship is 700 miles away from where Blade was.
I can just see Dracula. No, I'm no hero.
Yeah. That's essentially the way it comes off. So Blade, after this battle on the docks, he gets in a fight with none other than Jonathan Harker. And if you don't know who Jonathan Harker is, you need to go back and read Dracula.
It's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, it's Keanu Reeves. Go watch the movie. Anyways, Jonathan Harker is now an old man. It's been 60 years since his time dealing with Dracula, and he is still trying to find the Count and kill him. And he's wanting Blade to join up with him, and Blade's like, I don't need you. What do I need humans for? Your way ain't working. You've been hunting him for 60 years. I know exactly where he's at. So after Dracula's introduced on this island, we don't know how Blade happened to get 700 miles away and swim through the Mediterranean to get to the ship, because he does. And he climbs up on the ship in full scuba gear. 700 miles away in the same night.
Obviously, there's your answer. He had full scuba gear, Craig.
So, anyways, he gets on there, and in the meantime, Dracula has laid out his plan to his minion that, hey, go get me this woman. I'm going to feed on her. She's beautiful. He feeds on her. Hey, stay here and watch her. I'm going to go deal with the plebes on the ship. And chaos ensues as he takes over the ship and starts killing everybody and threatening to kill people. And these are rich people, and the guy pulls out his 22 and is going to try and shoot Dracula. That 22 is going to do a lot of damage. And about that time, Blade shows up, and they have this big battle that ends in a draw. So our first experience with Blade is a draw between him and Dracula. This book's it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's 70s comic fun. It is what it is. I enjoyed the shit out of going back and rereading it. It's been years since I read this story.
Well, what year did you say this came out?
1972.
See, that's the same year Luke Cage got made. So, I mean, the blaxploitation thing is on point. That's the world that, blaxploitation.
Well, they were trying to diversify their heroes, right, and they were creating new heroes. But ultimately, it was a bunch of white dudes that weren't dealing with black people in the real world.
And that finally changed. When you got artists on there like Arvel. I'm slipping on his first name. But he was here at a comic convention not too long ago. You finally get black people working on books featuring black comics, and they get less polished for white people. They're not so Tarantino-ish as much as they're just real. And I just think it's fun.
It's fun. I mean, this obviously isn't the Blade we know now and love, but it's still a fun book. There's no mention on how he's got his powers, how he can deal with, fighting vampires. None of that's in this book. You don't know that he is a daywalker or anything at that point. No hint that he's even got vampiric blood in him, other than he's able to actually fight these vampires. And at one point, Dracula tells him, "Oh, you dealt with my minions, but you haven't dealt with anybody as powerful as me yet." And he changes into one point, Dracula changes into a bat, and he still has his own human face on it. The art's it's fantastic, cheesy 70s art. It's meant to look like Kirby art. It's very much the Marvel style, but it's done well. Sure. The colors are 70s colors, very bright, very bold. But again, it's fun. It's fun to go back and read these comics, and you absolutely should from time to time.
Are the facsimile editions recolored? Are they original colors?
I think they're intended to be exactly the same as the original print. So I think it's the same colors.
Okay.
Well, the colors automatically going to look more vibrant because of the quality of the paper it's on.
That's right. Yeah. But they are intended to be, the facsimile is that they are actually reprinting them the way they originally printed.
Right. They need to get some guts.
Granted, it's not
newsprint.
It's not on newsprint. It's on glossy paper. So you do, as Matt said, the quality of the paper makes it look better in and of itself. But I've been really enjoying going back and reading these facsimile editions. I know, Matt, you get a lot of the dollar books in addition to them, just to go back and read some of these stories. It's fun. It's fun, good times. Is the quality of these stories the same as what you're getting today? Arguably yes, but also arguably no.
Sometimes is the answer to that.
Yeah.
It was a different style. It was a different style of writing. You go back and you read, the first issue of Spider-Man. You go back and read Amazing Fantasy 15. The writing is not up to today's quality or standards.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's any less fun.
No.
These were written for a different audience. They were written more for a general audience than they are today. I mean, now maybe arguably not first appearance of Blade fighting Dracula. But I really enjoy it. I enjoyed going back and rereading this issue. Just I think I texted you guys, and I was struggling on what to talk about this week.
Yeah.
And I went through and dug out this book and reread it, and just I really do yourself a favor, buy some of these facsimile editions, buy some of these dollar books, go back. You can walk into any local comic book store and you can buy an omnibus. I'm not suggesting you spend $100 to go back and read this story.
Yeah, this was what, $3?
It was $3.99.
Yeah.
And you get the first appearance of Blade.
Well, like you said earlier, there's so many of the other ones that are just dollar books.
Yeah.
They don't have the ephemera that I think is awesome.
Yeah. Well, you don't get this wonderful super bodybuilding course on the inside cover, which, I think that's something the comics are missing today, and one of the reasons they are $3.99.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
They don't take, whether there's not a market for the advertising in them anymore, or they just have moved away from it. I don't personally mind seeing advertising in my comics. I never have. As a kid, it was part of it. I mean, I was the guy that cut out the coupons and mailed off to get the army soldiers,
So two things. One, it was Arvell Jones that I was thinking of, and I don't know why it slipped my name, but creator of Misty Knight, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
An amazing artist. Number two, I don't mind the ads, and you're starting to see them come back a little bit. I texted you. We were talking like a week ago, and it's insane to me that there's almost, I think it's Marvel Comics, all of the back pages are ads for the new Breaking Benjamin album.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because the dude from Breaking Benjamin's a huge nerd. But one thing that does bug me, and I wish DC would quit freaking doing
the Snickers?
The Snickers.
Yeah. What bothers me is sometimes the art is better in the Snickers.
The Snickers are, because you're right, it's really good house style art, but I'm sitting there reading along, and sometimes I forget that it's like I'll turn the page and there's a story that just is going in the midst of it. It picks up kind of in action, and you're like, wait a minute, this like, where did Wonder Woman come from? And oh shit, it's a Snickers ad.
Well, the weird thing is back in the 70s.
It makes you angry that the quality of the advertisement is so good.
No, that it's unexpected.
So back in the 70s, that was a thing that would happen beyond the ads, is you would just be reading, and in the middle of the story, you'd have a 3-4 page different little story in there, and then it would go back to the main story.
Except it was about Hostess cakes.
Right?
It was about Hostess. There was that.
Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah.
And you didn't care when you were 12 years old reading that. In fact, you were fine that it was a Hostess ad.
Right.
It was still Batman beating up the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, the little Snickers. Cake. Look, to be fair, the Snickers stories are good.
Yeah.
You're reading along and it just breaks up the pace because all of a sudden you got to figure out this isn't the story you're telling.
Attention, DC. Caleb needs you to dumb it down a little bit.
Stop it.
But I love that in a comic. I would be pro putting pages of ads in them like these things have to get the price back down a little bit to make it affordable for everybody.
We need to find a way to put an SFG ad in a comic. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
And we did that with our friend Brian's.
In the Phantasm Media, the anniversary issue of Night of the Living Dead actually has a Southern Fried Geekery ad.
Nice.
So go buy that from Brian Stewart.
Yeah.
So you can get our ad.
And then tell us about it.
Tell us about it so that at least I will feel like one person saw that ad for me.
Hey, how'd you hear about our podcast? Well, I saw an ad of a magazine. Oh, what magazine? The Phantasm Media. Well, how'd you hear about Phantasm? Well, I was listening to your podcast.
Circle of life.
Matt, brother, what'd you read this week?
So I pulled up an old book.
Y'all are double dipping on me.
Yeah. So this is 2014's Crossed Plus 100, number 1 by Alan Moore, Gabriel Andrade, and colors are by Digicore Studios. So this is a series I read as this came out, and I don't know anybody else. I've yet to talk to anybody else that finished this. I know some people that started it, but I don't know anybody that finished it.
I fell off of it. I loved Cross, but I fell off of Cross Plus 100.
So I'm going to go ahead and get into the synopsis, and then I'll come back to that point.
Okay.
Craig's point. So the setting is 100 years after the Crossed outbreak in the year 2108. And those of you that don't know, the Crossed series is essentially a contagion series about a virus. It's called crossed because the infected break out in a rash in the form of a cross on their face. And they essentially, it makes them lose their humanity. They're stripped of their humanity, and they're acting out in the most base, sexual, and violent ways. So 100 years later,
who brought this idea into the world?
Created by Garth Ennis.
Of course.
Now, this is from Avatar Studios. So, a small group of survivors are making their way across an overgrown Tennessee landscape in this year 2108. Their group uses a re-engineered train engine which runs on coal to move across the rough terrain. The main purpose of the group is to travel about and to look for supplies and information. A woman who is part of the group is called an archivist, and she tries to collect all the audio, video, and printing media she can. The purpose of which is to continue to learn the how and what of the initial crossed outbreak. At this point in the future, most of the crossed infected have actually died off. The disease causes people to behave in a way which results in short lifespans. Yeah, you'll figure that out real quick if you read it. But the group crosses paths with a small group of about 5 crossed infected and kills them. This surprises them because they had believed they were traveling through a part of the country which was clear of crossed infected. So after they decontaminate themselves, the group moves on, but soon they come into another town and stop to inspect an old church because churches were frequently used as shelters by the uninfected survivors in the past. Once inside, they find something which makes them assume there are uninfected survivors nearby. What they find is on the floor in the middle of the church, 4 to 5 burning candles. A small pile of white granules that they assume is either sugar or salt, but they will not taste it to find out for obvious reasons.
You don't want to be infected.
Yeah, and a framed old photocopy of a photograph of a middle-aged, heavy-set white man. Suddenly, they
It's
are...
me.
Yeah. Oh boy, is it not. Suddenly they are warned by a lookout of the group that some infected are closing in on their location. They step outside and it is only about 7 crossed infected individuals. Of course, they're nude. It's, again, they're stripped of their humanity, so clothes aren't a thing for these people. They're running around joyously yelling, "Pac-a-min, Pac-a-min." I don't know what that means, obviously, but then suddenly an enormous pack of wolves come running through the area, just right down the main thoroughfare of this abandoned town. After the wolf pack has moved on, the group makes it safely back to the transport as they continue on their way to the next town. The archivist studies the framed picture, trying to make sense out of what they have found. So the reason that they think there are survivors in the area is because the crossed... they're group, they're people that are stripped of their humanity in all organization. They die quickly because of cannibalism and disease, straight up just being killed by other cross. So to find this strange little, it looks like a altar, this is something regular people do, not cross do. So when you read this story, and this is why Craig fell off, it's set 100 years after the crossed outbreak, and the language that the people used, I guess you would call it future speak. Mm-hmm. It's a small evolution of the way people talk. So it takes some getting used to in reading, and you have to slowly read this book. You can't just, rip through it.
Right.
For several reasons. But it makes you really slowly read the book and think about what the characters are saying. This is a 6-issue arc. First of all, you can get this in dollar bins all over the place because,
Because it's crossed.
Yeah, shops ordered it because it was Alan Moore. Mm-hmm. People quit buying it because of the way it was written. However...
People quit buying it because it was Alan Moore.
However, issue numbers 5 and 6 of this arc is some of the best things I've read from Alan Moore in years. Mm-hmm. In years. This little arc elevated this entire crossed universe, elevated it immensely. This is one of the smartest things I've read in a long time. And when I reread this first issue for this synopsis. I went back and I skimmed the middle and then have stopped and read number 5 and 6 thoroughly because the impact is strong. And he justifies this future speak language in spades when you get to the end. It's an incredible story and it's very smart. And if you're a Garth Ennis fan, and if you're a Alan Moore fan, and you have not read this, you're a fake geek girl.
I definitely need to finish this story because I've heard nothing but good about
the
end of it.
Put the work in. It's 6 issues. Put the work in, and it is an incredible ending.
So did you read all of Crossed?
No.
See, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I read all of the Badlands, I think is what it became.
Badlands
it was
was
Crossed,
one,
and then
yeah.
it became
That was Cy
Badlands.
Spurrier, I think, wasn't it?
Well, that was every story arc was written by a different creative team. Every 6 issues. And it did some very smart things at the end where it tied all of it together, which then led to Cross Plus 100, I believe. So, I mean, it is what it is for the story. It's violent. It's disgusting. It's, Horsecock is the first main villain. I mean, it is what it is. But Cross Plus 100, I've always heard, is absolutely fantastic. I couldn't stick with it myself, but I am going to go back and read it.
I started on it. Like, I've read a little bit of Crossed. It's just not my cuppa.
Well, that's fine. I get that. I mean, it's not something you take home to mom and go, hey, look what I'm reading, Mom.
Yeah. I don't like contagion stories.
Yeah. But it's Garth Ennis writing it. That tracks for you. Like for knowing you, I could see how you would just really enjoy, especially when Garth Ennis was run on it.
So Garth Ennis also did a online comic that went with this. He at one point was trying to use that to fund making it into a movie.
Right, I remember that.
The online was a very good story as well. Wish You Were Here was the title of that one. Different story arcs were better than others because you had different writers on it. But overall, I would wait and collect it in 6 issues. So read it in trade if if you're ever going to attempt to read it. But yeah, it's.
Well, you were talking about Alan Moore's work at Avatar Press. Don't. And I'm not looking at you when I say this. I'm looking more towards anybody out in the audience. Don't skip on it just because it's Alan Moore writing for kind of an indie publisher. Alan Moore, to me, did some of his smartest work in the last 20 years in Providence, which was put out by Avatar Press. And that was a book that he did with Jason Burroughs. It was very Lovecraftian in nature. It was focusing on...
it was all about Lovecraft.
Yeah. And just in that world, and it kind of took some liberties about building that world.
Well, he also had Neonomicon that he did there, and... he did some of those stories.
Some of his strongest storytelling in the last 20 years came out of Avatar Press books. Don't be afraid to try. And I think this goes back to talking about the Cimmerian Queen of the Black Coast. Don't knock a book just because it comes from a publisher that you're not familiar with or you're not. That doesn't diminish the potential. Like a lot of people are afraid to try new things from indie publishers. And
that makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
none, 0.
Well, to me, it doesn't. Once you know the quality of the craft, I can see how people could look over it. So when I'm flipping through the previews magazines, there are some publishers in the back of the book that I just don't pay any attention to because I don't care, and probably to my own detriment. Had I not been a Conan mark, I don't know that I would have picked up Queen of the Black Coast just based off the cover alone. I would have off the interior art. But it's one of those things, it's like you see Alan Moore's name on something, but you don't know what it is, and you're just like, I don't need this. Well, it's some of the best work the dude's ever done.
First of all, if you ever see Alan Moore on something and you go, I don't need this, you need to re-question your life decisions. But, and here's the thing about Avatar right now. They are pretty much going under.
Liquidating.
They're liquidating all of their back stock. Any local comic book store can order you their back catalog for cheap.
Yeah.
So get in there and get some of it because they have some fantastic work. That
$5 trades?
Yeah.
Something like that for any of their stuff. Disenchanted was a series that I really loved from them that I need to actually get. No, dude, I love it.
Yeah. And thanks, Matt, for bringing that back to because it's one that, again, I fell off of, and I keep meaning to go back and reread it. So it will be one that I need to go back and finish.
So let me ask you this. I was not a fan of Crossed as it stood in its original inception. I do love Alan Moore. I have not read Crossed. I know the impetus of the story, but I don't know the story. Can I pick up Crossed plus 100 and be okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
All you need to know is the basis of the Crossed universe. Which,
okay.
And it
sets it for you in the first issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that was one of the reasons I didn't read it, because I haven't read plus 100 yet. Was because I'm not a Crossed person.
I didn't read it because it was a shit ton of work to read. I needed a decoder handbook to go with it.
Well, we were, Craig and I were talking at the time when the book was coming out, and issue number 3 came out. And I was like, "Did you read Crossed over there?" Nah. And I was like, "What's up?" He's like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it." And I was like, no, be strong, be strong.
One of the most hilarious things in the world, boys and girls at home, is when Matt really loves a story and neither Craig and I are picking up on it, and he just gets so frustrated with us that we won't read it.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
It is hilarious on levels that it's hard to explain. So speaking of books that make you do a little bit of work yourself, I read a book this week. Actually, I read it last week, and I told y'all a little bit about it, but I really wanted to bring it to the table and focus on it. And it is a book that, in its own right, asks you to do most of the work, most of the heavy lifting, because the majority of it is a silent book. It is it's not a book that has a lot of dialogue. It does have some. There are some quiet moments in the book, and you'll see what I mean here in just a second, where you get some interaction between people that it lays it out for you. But most of it, you just interpret the story on your own. And that story is none other than Loud by Maria Llovett. This book was published by Black Mask. It's a graphic novel, so it's all one and done. You don't need any other, there's not another part of it coming out that I know of. But I fell in love with Maria Llovett this past year. I think her work is excellent. She has this weird mix of Paul Pope. There's a little bit of 100 Bullets thrown in there. I love her style, so anything that she does, I'm going to be pressed not to pick up on. And this book, I mean, we're all old, so we don't really go out anymore, but you remember nightclubs. You remember how those are things?
Yes. Nightclubs were much different when I was young. We don't go out anymore.
Look, I'm in, people are, texting me in law school, hey, it's we're meeting up at 10:30 to go out. I'm like, no, no, we are not. You might be. We are going to bed at 10:45, and we are starting to be sensible.
I've been asleep for 2 hours.
We are putting on a sensible robe and drinking warm tea at 9:45. That's what we are doing. But no, you walk into a nightclub or a bar, and the music's blaring, the thump is happening. It's just people are dancing, and it's just you can't carry on a conversation with the person next to you. It's pointless. If you're going there to have a talk, you're going to the wrong spot. Go to a coffee shop, and that's kind of the world that this book takes place in. It actually takes place at a strip club. The entire book is set inside a very seedy, not necessarily the best. Not that I think most strip clubs are probably the best place in the world. This place is on the seedier end of a strip club, right? You get what I'm saying.
There's high-end strip clubs.
Yeah, there are. This is not necessarily.
This is
one
not
of
it.
Yes. But, I mean, it's a very creative strip club. But there's lots of things happening in this bar. This is a very busy bar. It's very packed. I'm guessing it's a weekend night. People are there. They're spending money. Lots of stuff is going on. And the book kind of just walks you through meeting the different performers, meeting the different dancers. And, you've got kind of the quintessential baby doll, blonde hair and pigtails type. You've got, the femme dame. You've got people who do the silks and the rolling and stuff where they, they've got the giant strand of cloth that comes down and they flip all around and stuff. So, I mean, this is not a strip club that doesn't have its perks. It's got some different things that, it's got some Cirque du Soleil to it, so to speak. But it's also not necessarily someplace you're not doing high-end stuff in here. So, the characters are going on stage, and you can kind of see some of the workers in the background. They're pouring drinks, and, some folks don't look happy. Some folks look like they're having the time of their lives. It's just really, there's something here for everybody. And as the music is blaring and, baby doll takes the stage, and she's in her giant stripper shoes, and she's working with pole, and these greasy, seedy guys are just looking at her. You can kind of just tell what they're thinking. And you don't want to. You really don't want to. As she's.
What are they thinking, Caleb?
I mean,
let's not go there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh God!
And she gets done. She does her set. She's going to walk off, and she meets. As she's walking off the stage, she pops a little acid on her tongue. She's having a good time. She might as well. And there's this other chick that walks by, and they kind of catch each other's eye. And there's a sensualness here. That is in Maria Lovett's work just from jump. And when I first started reading Maria Lovett, was on the Azzarello book, Faithless from last year. And one of the things I remember talking to you about when that book first came out, and not knowing her work, was I was kind of scared that, okay, is this just going to be exploitive? Like, because there's one thing to show sex, and there's another thing to be boundless comics. Like there's a difference.
I think she does tasteful sex. In her.
Yeah, yes. And it can be raunchy, but she does it in a way it doesn't feel like it's exploitive.
Yeah, it is. It's not tasteless. It's not pornography, in the sense of what people think of pornography.
Yeah, it's almost burlesque in a way. Like it gives you everything you want, but it makes you connect the dots. Yeah. And so, like I said, she sees this girl, and they're attracted to her. She kind of licks her lips, and the other chick's playing with her hair, and they go to the bathroom. They go to handle, because sometimes you just need to
classy.
You just need to go handle some business while you're in the bathroom, and boy, is business handled. These girls are having a good time. They're having a real good time, and while they're doing this, you kind of get this wide shot of the bath, almost like a look down from the sky of what
wide shot of a stripper bathroom.
And no, it's not a wide shot. It's like a view from the heavens of it, and you see this woman in a stall, and she's crying. She's taking a pregnancy test, and the story derails from the story that it was telling, and it goes to follow her around, and she's sitting there and she's trying to avoid thinking about her life and why. I mean, look, some things have gone wrong. She's taking a pregnancy test in a strip club. This is not the path I think that she necessarily wanted to go down. And she walks out, and like I said, there's at this point somebody else is on the stage doing the silks and kind of doing the Pink thing. Pink, obviously the performer. Yeah. And she walks past the bartender, he's mixing drinks, and he's like, "Hey, you want a shot?" And she just took a pregnancy test, and obviously it was positive, so she says no, and she kind of walks off. Starts following the bartender around at that point, and the bartender. He sees the chick, and she's a beautiful woman. She's an Asian woman who's been doing the silks, and they kind of make a little eye contact, and then they decide they need to go to the back room. But these people have history, and as they get into the back room, that's actually where you get some of the dialogue in the book. And they, he's like, "I can't quit thinking about you. I haven't really slept a night since we met." She's like, "Well, it's been 2 years now. Like, what? Like, you must be tired." And so, they get to fucking. And while they're fucking, somebody else walks into the room, and it's a disgruntled employee, and she has just seen a transaction take place, and she's seen somebody walk in with one of those kind of silver briefcases that's all metal, and it opens up, and it's got something called, I think it's like daylight or like day glow or something in it. That's what the card says. And she's seeing this being bought and traded by what is presumably the owner, and she's not happy about this. You can just tell from her facial expressions. Again, there's no exposition telling you. And so she just scribbles out a note that says, "I quit," while these two people are fucking in the back room. And the story, believe it or not, gets weird from this point. What this chemical is, what this thing's being sold. It's actually timely that you talked about Dracula, because what this is it's a chemical that will allow vampires to walk in the daytime. This book turns into a horror story at that point. Yeah. The strip club is a haven for vampires, and they are.
I saw that Tarantino movie.
Kind of, yeah. There's a little bit of an allusion to that too, but kind of in a different way. Like they're pulling kind of unexpected clients, generally female clients, to back rooms where they're draining them, and they're using their blood to feed this husk of a being. And again, what I love about this book is it doesn't give you any exposition. It doesn't
You're
tell
left
you
to determine a lot of it yourself.
Yeah, what's going on. And at some point there turns into a gang. It almost turns into that scene from Blade, where it's a vampire nightclub and there's like people comes in guns ablazing. There's a really the art shows you some really decrepit, despicable people and some really human moments in what turns out to be a supernatural story through no narration, through very minimal conversation. You get a story that just it will eat at your soul, and much the way the vampires do. Like everything in this book is a metaphor. Everything in Maria Llovett that she's doing in this work is a metaphor for what we see in real life. And like I said, I love Kismet. I think it's funny when it happened. When we start off with a Mark Russell book that shows you the real life narration of how the shitty people who run the world view modern humanity, and you go into a Tomb of Dracula book where it's a metaphor for how people suck the lives out of inner cities, which is what Dracula started out as, or what blah 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 Blade started out as. That metaphor, and then you roll into Alan Moore with what Matt talked about and how it's just a breakdown of civilization and people, in a way, not purposefully.
So
but
what I'm getting is the billionaires caused Cross.
Well, no, it leads to strip clubs. That's what it that's what it does. But no, the people break down to their lesser natures through no real fault of their own, just kind of the way that the world works and how it infects you. It's funny how those things all loop together into this book. And as I was listening here talking about the book, I'm like, oh, like that's what I love about silent comics, or 90% silent comics, because what's happening around you can kind of influence the narration that the art is telling you. And it can walk you down a story path. And so this book could mean a different thing to different people. I mean, there's a scene in here where this chick ODs in the bathroom. She snorts a bad batch. She just starts bleeding out of her head and ears. And somehow she's one of them that ends up surviving. And so there's a little bit of a redemption arc in there. The thing that comics does better than anyone, any other medium, is the ability to translate the world through lines. It's the ability to take any type of shape, and that's what essentially art does. One of the best definitions of art is the artist's ability to translate their thoughts into shapes, and by doing that, to attach an emotion or an experience to that shape that is then adaptable to every experience of everyone who will put their eyes on that book. That's what art does. That's what comic art does, and that's what narrative art does in a way that no other medium, be it film, be it prose, poetry, anything else, nothing can do that the way comics does.
Yeah.
Arguably a single picture can't do that. Now there is some debate as to that, and I think there's some merit to that. But Maria Llovett is one of those artists that is just going to skyrocket in the next 5 years.
If you're not familiar with her, go do yourself a favor. Go get Volume 1 of Faithless.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up the first issue of Heartbeat. I don't know that I was aware of her before Faithless. I don't know if she's done anything previous to Faithless or not. But pick up the first volume of Faithless and read it, because it's a fantastic story with beautiful, beautiful art.
That's stunning. And it's so funny because, what she did in Faithless is they start out with a story that's very kind of mundane, kind of just weird, and it's artsy, it's weird. There's weird things going on in this woman's life, and then it turns into a supernatural narrative. And she does something very similar. And I think that is something very interesting in the way that she crafts her stories. Yeah. So go check it out. Like I said, this is I think I paid $16.99 for this.
I'm going to borrow it from you.
It's badass. There is some nudity, so if nudity bothers you, if it bothers your sensibility, maybe this isn't the book for you. If that's
what I really love is that we've talked about two different up and coming, beautifully drawn work by female artists.
Yeah.
Maria Llovett and Mirka Andolfo.
For sure.
I love that you're starting to get some more of that. I mean, not that it hasn't been around for a minute now, but these are two up and coming artists that are going to take over comics by storm.
100%.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, y'all ready to kind of start landing this plane?
Yeah.
Let's do that then. So every week when we close the show, I like to set the menu a little bit, so to speak, kind of give a taste of what's going to come out next Wednesday, New Comic Day, that we think might be interesting. Now, full disclosure, we haven't read these books. We don't know. We could get it and be like, oh,
I'm never wrong in my choices.
I'm calling.
Hey, I've went from apologizing to just saying I'm never wrong.
Fake news.
Yeah. Misleading.
That's okay. I think
Obama did it. It wasn't me.
Look, at the end of the day, you have to be able to draw something from anything when you read it. So at the end, even a bad story is worth reading. If nothing else, you know why it was bad. But I don't think any of these books are going to be that way. I don't think we're going to get that from because look, all of these things just look really cool. So I'll kick us off on this one. This Wednesday, there is a book coming out that I am giddy about. I have been wanting this book to come out for a while, ever since I saw it solicited, and that book is none other than the Submariner Marvel's Snapshot, obviously from Marvel. This book is it's got just a host of people working on it. I mean, you've got Alan Brennert, Jerry Ordway. It's been drawn by Alex Ross. Kurt Busiek was involved in this. And what this is, it's like there's obviously Alex Ross and I think Busiek wrote the Marvels book. And what this is kind of taking that, and it's playing with that idea. It's adapting it and rolling in. And there's going to be 8 issues that focus on different characters of some of Marvel's biggest heroes throughout the era from the Golden Age till now. And they're doing this. They're starting it off with one of my favorite characters at Marvel. I love Namor. The Submariner is my dude. I think my 3rd favorite character at Marvel, if I had to stack them, depending on what week it is. And so what they're doing with this is they're showing you some of these big moments in history, but they're doing it kind of the eye of the camera style, where it's from the viewpoint of an average person on the street. It's not from their viewpoint. It's literally as if you were on the street watching these things happen. And to me, that's great. And that's one of the things that I think Alex Ross can do probably better than anyone else. And Kurt Busiek being involved, obviously that can't hurt, because his Marvel's Eye of the Camera is one of my favorite heart-wrenching stories of all time. And so I'm excited about this.
Awesome.
I can't wait to see what's going on with it.
Awesome.
What are you reading this week, Matt?
So what everybody needs to read, and what I know is going to be good, is from Image Comics Reaver #7 by Justin Jordan and Nico Henriquin. So yeah, this is obviously a continuation from the last arc. Now this apparently is going to revolve around Eason Breaker. He is tired of violence, and he's traveled to Haas Hayden, the city at the edge of the world, to escape it. But where Breaker goes, death follows.
Talk about another up-and-coming female artist who is just crushing it. Rebecca Isaacs is insane.
Well, still, there's some confusion online. It looks like she's not on this arc. It's Nico Henriquin. I'm not pronouncing that right. Henriquin. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's taking hey, look, Justin's already said he's taking this in a different tonal area.
Yeah.
Why not switch the art? So
Yeah.
I'm going to miss Rebecca Isaacs though.
Yeah, but what's confusing is if you look at the solicitation, the cover has her name on it.
Really?
But it's got
She may be doing the cover.
maybe that's what's up. Yeah. But anyway, buy it, kids.
Do it.
So I have one that I believe is going to be good because Jonathan Hickman's writing it.
Oh yeah.
And this is Decorum #1 by Image Comics. It's written by Jonathan Hickman, Mike Huddleston doing the art. The solicitations say there are many assassins in the known universe. This is the story of the most well-mannered one. So that, to me, a polite assassin, that should be interesting.
Boy,
written by Jonathan Hickman.
Fuck Tarkington's not going to have this.
Yeah. Yeah, Fuck Tarkington is not going to be happy about this.
Well, all right. Well, we want to thank you all once again for joining us on this lovely little trip in the comics world. We have fun doing it. We hope you have fun listening to it. If you want to join us for some more of this, you know where to come. We got our Facebook group. We got Instagram. We got that other thing, Twitter, that we're on sometimes. We also have, like Craig mentioned, we got our email address. So if you had any questions, if there's things you want to bring to our attention, we would love it. Send us an email. Tell us what you're thinking. Other than that, guys, go forth and love some comics. We'll see you next week. Woo!